Photoshop, when you start this project, you want to be sure that all of your layers first, when you go to your layers panel in Photoshop where you made the web banner ad, that all of your layers like this are labeled for you, because what's going to happen to you is when you bring these into the next program, you want to be sure that they're all labeled. So make sure you label them. Don't leave them layer 1, layer 2. It's more, or I should say it's easier for you if you label them. So double click your layers and name them what you think they should be called. The ones with the words on them are already named for you, so you're okay. So you're okay. Okay, from there, what you're going to do, once it's saved, you can close out of it. And you can open up Adobe After Effects. So go to your Launchpad, go to Adobe After Effects, and open that up. Once you get there, hold on. I'm working on a tutorial here. Shh, quiet. You're going to go to New Project when it pops up. When New Project pops up, you're going to go to the left-hand side over here. You're going to double-click, and we're going to import the file. So, for example, here I would go into Gerard's folder. You could go into your own folder, and inside there you're going to find the PSD version of your web banner. The option it's going to ask you about here, though, is you just have to be careful about, is import it as a composition and retain the sizes so that your animation will be the same size as the file that you made in Photoshop. Then you can hit Create Composition, and then you can hit Open. So when you do that and it imports it in, it's going to ask you one more question about editing them or merging them. You don't want to merge them because that would flatten them, so just keep it editable and hit OK. Okay, so here now on the left-hand side, you'll see a composition. If I double-click and open this one up, at the bottom you will see your timeline, but it represents only this one layer. So that composition that shows up here is not the one you want. You want to open up and flare up this little folder. You can see all your layers inside of here. You want this one that says Artboard. Just double-click it. When you double-click it, it's going to open up like this. And at the bottom, very similar to what you're used to from Photoshop, you can see all of your layers represented here on the bottom, and you have your little playhead indicator that you can move back and forth to wherever you want. You'll notice that at the end of this, if I pull it all the way to the right, it's 30 seconds long. That's way more than you need a web banner to be. So to change that, you're going to go to Composition up at the top. You're going to do Composition Settings, and you just have to change this option that's here towards the bottom where it says 29 seconds and 29 frames. So here, you can change that to 5. You only need this to be about 5 seconds long or so. Everything else can remain the same. You don't have to change anything, and just hit OK. Okay. The only other thing to look out for on this is that in the viewer window here, where you see your composition, on the bottom left corner there is a sizing option so that you can see things better. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can fit it to your screen. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, about 50%. Boys, shh, quiet while I do this, and then you can talk after. And then also at the bottom here on the left, there is a quality setting. So if you keep it at full, it'll slow down your computer a little bit. If you keep it at half or a third, that's best. So I'm going to keep it at half, 50% for now. So you can see the design is set up right here. So what do you want to do in order to animate it? When I move the playhead back and forth, you see there's no movement just yet. So what I'm going to do is take the playhead, move it all the way to the end, or a little bit before the end, let's say a few frames, 10 frames before the end of it. I'm going to go over to that layer. The first one I'm going to deal with is the logo. To make it a little bit easier to see, I'm going to hide the rest of them except for the logo layer, just so I can only see that one on my screen. So you can see here, I only see the logo. Okay, so I move the playhead to about 10 frames before the end. I'm going to go over to the left-hand side. There's a little arrow here on the layer. I'm going to open it up. There's a little transform one with an arrow also. Open that up. And you'll notice that it gives you options for positioning, scale, rotation, and opacity. And next to each one, there is a little stopwatch icon. What this does when you click the stopwatch icon is that you can tell it to make a keyframe. So as soon as I click it, you see they highlight in blue, and these little keyframes show up here on the left, but they also have shown up all the way here on the right-hand side, a keyframe in that exact spot in time, which means at that point in time, your logo for that layer, this piece of layer, looks exactly like this in the position, in the clarity, and everything that you see it's in that spot. You can change the position, the scale, meaning bigger or smaller, the rotation, you can rotate it, and opacity, whether you can see through it or not. So if you move your playhead back to the beginning of the timeline here, you could then change any of these things. You can change them by moving the blue numbers. or you can go on your screen like this and you can click and move them. So just as an example, if you wanted this logo to start at the top outside of the document and then slowly move in from top to bottom, you would now move it to the top and out of the way. That was here, I was doing it in the beginning of the timeline. And you'll notice that as I moved it, it automatically made a brand new keyframe at that point in time, telling you that at this point in time, the logo itself is at the top of your screen. So if you hit the play button now, in 5 seconds, it would make its way from the top to the bottom where you had left it over there, okay? And it moves. So what else could you do? So as you're moving through, and you could put the playhead anywhere that you want, you could go and you could change the scale, right? These numbers here on the side, this is what I'm talking about, this area here. You could change and pull and click and drag or type in the numbers that you want. You could do the same thing for rotation and opacity. So if I made this larger, so I'll zoom out so you can see what I'm doing as I'm doing it. You can make it larger, right? So it made a new keyframe right in the middle at that new size. So from here to here, right, the size looks the same. It's moving, but now I increased the size of it. Well, what if I go back to the beginning and I decrease the size? And then I go back over to here, so you can see that there's change in the scale, the size of the whole thing. Same thing for rotation. I could begin the rotation here, but then as I get to maybe here, I rotate. All right? And so now if I play it back, it's making that rotation as it's moving. You could change it at any point. You can go backwards, forwards. And so you're changing and adding these keyframes wherever you'd like. Thing to know about the keyframes as you continue to do this thing for each layer. You can click on the keyframes themselves and you can move the keyframes to the left or to the right. If you move them closer together, then the function that you did, the action that you did will happen in a faster amount of time. If you spread them out, then it's a slower between each keyframe, sort of a slower pace, you could call it, between each keyframe. And opacity at the end, if you wanted to, let's say, start out at 0%, and then by the time it gets to here, you want it to come to 100%. So now it's going to fade. As you play it back, you can see it's fading in and spinning, gets to 100%. I could fade it back out. So you have lots of options for things that you do. So if I play it back now, you're going to see it gets bigger, it spins, it fades in, it fades out, it does all those things. Okay. The last and final little piece to this is if you go on to the right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see something that says Effects and Presets, and if you click it, there's a bunch of different categories here. Give it a second to come up. In these, there are animation presets. Things like behaviors. There's lots of different categories, as you can see, lots of folders, and in each one there's something different. But as an example, if I went to Wiggle Gelatin, looks like a little Lego piece, right? You take this and you move it and drag it onto the layer that you want to use it on. So if I want to use it on that logo, I'm going to drag and drop it in. And as I drag and drop it in, if I play it back now, you'll see that the logo itself starts to kind of wiggle and jiggle besides the fact that it's spinning and fading. So it's doing this like wiggle effect. Whenever you apply something from here over onto a layer, you're going to get all of these options. They show up in two places. They show up here where it says Wiggle Gelatin at the top. It's got all these options for you. So the more you, like the amount, let's say I'm going to increase the amount from 20 to 30, and then I'm going to look back at this thing and play it. You can see it's really like bending and twisting and turning, right? So you got all of these different options. Every single one of these on the side has different options that come up on this side when you apply them, and you can just kind of play with them and mess around with them. So that kind of helps to add some behaviors to the individual pieces as you do them. So you can do them manually with the keyframes, you could do them with these preset effects, or you could do both depending on what you want to do for each layer. And last but not least, let's say I put all these back on the side here so I can see what I've got so far. The only thing that's going to move right now is the Pepsi logo, but you can move all the other pieces, just do them individually, layer by layer. One additional thing is that this program has a lot of these different behaviors and effects and things inside. And once you learn them, you can type them in here. So as an example, if I went to bubbles, you'll notice that there's this CC bubbles that comes up. If you want to use bubbles as an effect over something, you would go down to the bottom here where all your layers are. You can right click, you can add a new, and what they call it is an adjustment layer. And if you add an adjustment layer, it's going to add a brand new layer to the top. On this adjustment layer now, you could take that bubbles effect and drag it from here onto the adjustment layer. So you can see now as I play it back, all I see is like these bubbles that are like popping and moving around my screen. Those are happening on this top layer. When you go to it, the layer itself down here, you go to effects, there's the bubbles, open up bubbles, and you have all of this, the size, the speed, all this different stuff that you can change for all of it. So if I made the speed a little more, the frequency a little more, the bubble amount, so there's more bubbles, the bubble size, make them much bigger, and I look back over here and we play it back, you can see what's happening now. The only problem now is that they're obviously covering everything that we have underneath. So if we want to see through this, all we have to do is go to the layer itself, and we can start to change the blending mode, the opacity of the effect. Like I can bring this down. This is one of our options to do it. And so when you look back over at the work, you can see through it now. So you can kind of see the bubbles that are bouncing on top of what you have. So basically it's like adding an effect or a filter on top of what you have. Okay, when you feel you are done, you make sure you come see me, you make sure you save it, obviously, and then at the very end we're going to export it. We're going to export it using Media Encoder, but you can call me over when you're ready for that.